What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 73 of the Idiotic Sports Talk. I'm your host, Liam Gavin, coming to you live from my kitchen. And today I just want to talk about the Week 4 NFL recap, a lot of good games. Let's start with the Thursday night game, which was pretty good. I expected it to not be that good, but it was. It was the Bengals beating the Jaguars 24-21. Joe Burrow, 348 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Tyler Boyd was his main receiver, 9 catches for 118 yards. Tight end CJ Uzomah had 5 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Joe Mixon had 67 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. As for the rookie quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, he had 204 passing yards, no touchdowns or interceptions, and a rushing TD to go with that. James Robinson had 78 yards for 2 touchdowns. And Laviska Shenault had 6 catches for 99 yards. My thoughts on the game were Evan McPherson, the Bengals kicker. He was clutch. He hit a game-winning field goal as time expired in the fourth quarter. The Bengals are now 3-1, which no one really saw coming, including myself. The Jags were up at halftime 14-0. I thought, this could be their first W of the season, but nope. Turns out they're now 0-4, and Trevor Lawrence, he played his best game so far this year of his NFL career. 0 turnovers for him that night. As for Urban Meyer, his recent actions after the game, a couple nights after, he was at the bar getting drunk, dancing with some girls, and the locker room didn't really like that the following week at practice. So, those are my thoughts on the game. Next is the Sunday games. We look at the Jets beating the Titans in overtime, 27-24. Zach Wilson, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Corey Davis had 4 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown against his former team, the Titans. It's a revenge game for him. And Jamison Crowder with 7 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. As for Ryan Tannehill, he had 298 yards passing, a touchdown, and no interceptions. Derrick Henry rushes for over 100 yards again. He had 157 yards rushing, plus a touchdown. It looks like Wilson and the Jets got their first W of the season. Jets, Jets. Sure, the Titans didn't have their 2 starting wide receivers, but it doesn't really matter because most people, me included, still picked the Titans to win. The Jets' defense was just phenomenal. They had 7 sacks, and Zach Wilson was throwing dimes in overtime as well. He looked real good. This was his best game so far of his young career. Jets are now 1-3 as the Titans fall to 2-2. Next, we have here the Bears beating the Lions 24-14. Justin Fields, 209 yards passing, no touchdowns, and an interception. Darnell Mooney had 5 catches for $125, and David Montgomery rushed for 106 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Jared Goff of the Lions threw for 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but fumbled twice. Khalif Raymond was his favorite target with 3 catches, 46 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Bears are now 2-2, and Justin Fields is now their new quarterback. He's a rookie. I don't think he didn't play that great, but he also didn't play horrible. On Sunday he played pretty decent. And David Montgomery and the Bears were just able to run all over the Lions. I knew the game was over for the Lions when the center snapped the ball to Goff when he wasn't ready and caused a turnover. The Lions, sadly, are now 0-4. Next is the Colts beating the Dolphins 27-17. Carson Wentz, 228 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jonathan Taylor had 103 rushing yards plus a touchdown. And Mo Alley Cox, the tight end, was their best target that day. He had 6 catches for 2 touchdowns. I'm sorry, I didn't list that. He just had 2 touchdowns. And as for Jacoby Brissett, it wasn't a revenge game against his former team. He had 199 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, an interception, no interceptions, and 1 fumble. Devontae Parker, 4 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. And tight end Mike Gesicki, 5 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown. Wentz finally had his first good game as a Colt. They finally got their first W of the season to make them go 1-3. And the Dolphins struggle without Tua as they lost 3 straight and now fall to 1-3. Next is the Browns beating the Vikings 14-7. Baker Mayfield had 155 yards passing, no touchdowns or interceptions. Nicholas Chubb had 100 rushing yards, and Kareem Hunt had a rushing touchdown. Kirk Cousins threw for 203 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Jefferson had 6 catches, 84 yards for a touchdown. The Browns' run game is back at it again. They're able to run the ball really well. But enough about talking about the run every week. How about the defense? The Browns' defense shut down Dalvin Cook for 34 rushing yards. The Browns' defense has been making plays all season long, and quietly, too. They're definitely one of the more underrated defenses of this season. And if they could keep playing the way they do, and along with their run game, they can make some noise. Browns are now 3-1 as the Vikings fall to 1-3. Next is the Washington football team beating the Atlanta Falcons 34-30. Taylor Heineke, 290 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Terry McLaurin, 6 catches for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Antonio Gibson had a rushing touchdown. And as for Matt Ryan, he had 283 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Cordell Patterson had a great game, 5 catches for 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had the hat trick. And Calvin Ridley had 7 catches for 80 yards. The Falcons had one job to beat Washington, and they didn't succeed. Atlanta's defense was just shredded by Terry McLaurin. They could not cover him all night. Matt Ryan, he honestly had an amazing game. This was the best game he's played so far this season. It just sucks that he had to take an L. Washington's now 2-2, and as Atlanta is 1-3. Next is the Bills stomping the Texans 40-0. Josh Allen, 248 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Stephon Diggs, 7 catches for 114. Dawson Knox had 5 catches, 37 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's their tight end. And running back Zach Moss had a rushing touchdown. And Mitch Trubisky, he got some playing time, and he had a rushing touchdown too. As for the rookie, Davis Mills for the Texans, rough day at the office for him. 87 passing yards, no touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. The Bills look like them old selves as they shut out the as they shut out the Texans to go 3-1. People are saying the Bills haven't really played anyone this year, but they've been killing their opponents. The teams that are supposedly nobodies, the Bills are just steamrolling through them. This is their second shutout this season, and this is their third game where they beat a team by 3 or more touchdowns. It was a rough day for rookie, Davis Mills, but the Texans are now 1-3, and, they haven't been good since Tyrod got injured. Next is the Giants beating the Saints 27-21. Daniel Jones, 402 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Saquon Barkley had a rushing and receiving touchdown. And Kenny Golladay making his best game with the Giants so far. 6 catches for 116 yards. Jameis Winston, 226 passing yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Alvin Kamara, 120 rushing yards. And Taysom Hill had 2 rushing touchdowns, but also threw an interception. And the Saints are another team that did me dirty. I wanted them to beat the Giants, and they didn't get the job done. As for the Giants, I have to say this was definitely Daniel Jones' best game of his career, honestly. He didn't look that bad for once, so definitely the best game he's played thus far. The Giants are 1-3. The Saints fall to 2-2. Next is the Chiefs beating the Eagles. Thank you, Chiefs. 42-30. Pat Mahomes, 278 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and an interception. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 102 rushing yards and a receiving touchdown. And Tyreek Hill smoked the Eagles' defense. 11 catches, $186, and 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 387 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And rookie receiver Devontae Smith, 7 catches for 122 yards. Thank you, Kansas City, for beating Philly. Patrick Mahomes had a vintage game. That's a vintage Patrick Mahomes performance to lead his team to a 2-2 record. As for the Eagles, they now fall to 1-3. Next is my Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Beating the Panthers 36-28. Dak Prescott, $188 passing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Zeke Elliott, 143 rushing yards and a touchdown. And Amari Cooper, 3 catches, 69 yards and a touchdown. Sam Darnold, 301 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 2 rushing touchdowns. DJ Moore had 8 catches for $113 and 2 touchdowns. And how about them Cowboys, man? Dak looked phenomenal. Zeke had his best game in a long time. And the defense balled out again with 5 sacks and 2 interceptions coming from Trayvon Diggs. That is now 5 interceptions in 4 games for Diggs. Dallas and Carolina are both 3-1. Next is the Seahawks beating the Niners 28-21. Russell Wilson, 149 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. DK Metcalf, 4 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. Jimmy G had 165 yards passing, a touchdown, and an interception, but suffered a calf injury. So in comes the rookie Trey Lance, who threw for 157 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Deebo Samuel had a big day. He had 8 catches for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Seahawks got a much-needed win against their division rival. They are now 2-2. Jimmy G is hurt. Trey Lance is in. And if Trey Lance is playing well like he has been, I would keep him in all year and ditch Jimmy G. So the Niners are now 2-2. Next is the Cardinals beating the Rams 37-20. Kyler Murray, 268 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Chase Edmonds had 120 rushing yards. James Conner, from former Steeler, has 2 rushing touchdowns. He's kind of found himself this year in Arizona. As for A.J. Green, he had 5 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown. He's having a pretty decent season in Arizona, too. You like to see that. Next is Stafford for the Rams, 280 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Van Jefferson was his big target with 6 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. And the Cardinals cruised to 4-0 as they smacked the Rams. I didn't expect the Cardinals to dominate the Rams like they did, but I'm really surprised. But they completely punched them in the mouth. The Cardinals are now the only undefeated team in the league, and the Rams take their first L of the season to go 3-1. Next is the Packers beating the Steelers 27-17. Aaron Rodgers, 248 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. Randall Cobb, the former Packer who left, went to the Cowboys, the Texans. Now he's back on the Packers. He had 5 catches, 69 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Big Ben had 332 passing yards, a touchdown, interception, and fumbled the ball. And Deontay Johnson had 9 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. Packers have now won 3 straight after that nightmare game on opening day to the Saints. They're now 3-1. The Steelers fall to 1-3, and honestly, Big Ben is done. I know they have Haskins and Mason Rudolph, and those guys aren't that good, but you got to start somewhere. I mean, Big Ben is no longer the answer for the Steelers. Next is the Ravens beating the Broncos 23-7. Lamar Jackson, 316 passing yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Hollywood Brown had 4 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown. And as for the Broncos, Teddy Bridgewater threw for 65 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, but left the game with a concussion. So in comes Drew Lock, and we all know about Drew Lock, right? He's not that great. He threw 113 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. So Lamar didn't get it done with his legs this time. He was able to get it done with his arm. He threw for 300 plus, which was, one of the first times. I think he's only done that like a couple other times since entering the league. But he's done it against a good defense. The Broncos have a nice defense, good front 7, good secondary. Now the Ravens have won 3 straight, and they're sitting at 3-1. And I hope Teddy Bridgewater's okay, man. He's a class act. He's a good quarterback. He deserves better than getting injured. Denver took their first L of the season, as they're now 3-1. Next is the Bucs beating the Patriots 19-17. Tom Brady, 269 passing yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. Leonard Fournette had 92 rushing yards. Mike Evans, 7 receptions, 475 yards. As for the rookie Mac Jones, 275 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Jacoby Meyer was their main offensive weapon that day with 8 catches for 70 yards, and he even had 54 yards passing. And Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, the tight ends, each caught a touchdown. They've been struggling this year, but they finally each got a touchdown. Tom Brady finally looked human, but he still got the W in revenge versus former team. Tom Brady is now now can say that he's beaten every single team in the league. And, Mac Jones didn't look too bad. If his kicker doesn't miss the last second field goal, the Pats probably win. They would have won. And, the Patriots had a total of -1 yards rushing. That's right, -1 yards rushing. Tom Brady alone had 3, which is hilarious. The Bucs are now 3-1, as the Patriots are now 1-3. And for the final game, the Monday Night Football game, we had the Chargers beating the Raiders 28-14. Justin Herbert, 222 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Austin Eckler, 117 rushing yards, a rushing and receiving touchdown. And Jared Cook, the tight end, getting it done with 6 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. As for Derek Carr, he threw for 196 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow each had a TD catch from Carr. And Justin Herbert, man, he's an absolute stud. Him and Austin Eckler feasted on the Raiders' defense to improve to 3-1. As for the Raiders, they took their first L of the season to fall to 1-3. So thank you all for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. Drop a like, drop a subscribe. Do whatever you guys can to promote my page. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.